welcome to the 221st edition of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. Back for a sixth season on the air. In the Music City, I'm Matt Perkins. Momentarily, we will be joined by our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton. But in the meantime, we still have the third amigo in the second city, a man for whom the word hybrid has become an epithet.
Oh, God.
Our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
Yeah, that's right. Avid listeners of the show have probably picked up that all of us are in education in some way. I'm a high school history teacher up here in the great city of Chicago. Our school's doing the hybrid thing. So, yeah, a lot of strange work. What unfortunately gets pushed to the side is fun stuff like talking football. I don't think we've had a show in months. We didn't do any of our preview shows.
It's been 6.5, 7 weeks since we had a show. It's been absolutely crazy for all of us trying to coordinate teaching, learning, podcasting, and getting all of that on the air. But the games are back as we are recording. We've got Miami taking on UAB down in the Orange Bowl. De'Aaron King making his debut.
Is it in the Orange Bowl?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if we can call that the Orange Bowl these days. I guess it's the ghost of the Orange Bowl. Does that work for you?
Fair enough. Should we do a super fast week one?
Yes, let's jump
recap. What caught your eye?
Yeah, let's talk about week one. Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about what caught my eye was BYU Navy. Apparently, it's a good idea to practice tackling before you actually go out and play an opponent.
Yeah, wow. BYU looked really sharp. Navy did not. But with the little practice time, it's hard to really get a read on things. So. But yeah, that was jarring. It felt I was so excited for that game. You know, it was Monday night. The rest of the weekend slate was pretty blah. But there was a couple things.
There were two games that I really had my eye on over the weekend before that game. But this game was definitely supposed to be like the cherry on top, and it ended up being just like a massive amount of some super sweet cherry syrup that doesn't actually taste very good on the rest of the Sunday.
Midway through the third quarter, I told my girlfriend, I was like, let's go walk the dog. She's like, I thought you were really excited for this game. And I'm like, it's 31-0. Like it's done. It's a blowout.
I mean, it was 31-0 at half. I mean, it was ridiculous. No, there were two games though that I was actually really locked in on. Over week one. That was Middle Tennessee State at Army. I was expecting a close game for that one. We did not get a close game there. And then obviously I think Arkansas State Memphis was probably the best game of week one between two teams that we expect, at this point year in and year out for both of those squads to be pretty solid within the AAC and the Sun Belt respectively. And that ended up being a pretty good game even without Kenneth Gainwell, Memphis's star running back, who has opted out of the season because of COVID. Memphis ended up winning 37-24. Brady White, the quarterback, back again, and he, kind of picked up where he left off last season, 27-37, 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. He looked pretty good, and the Memphis running game did not suffer without Gainwell. Sean Dykes stepped up 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, that was that was a good one. That was probably the most fun game that I watched. Josh, did you watch any of the other games over the weekend?
Yeah, I caught a lot of these games. Some of the play was really sloppy, so it was more like checking in on it. For instance, UAB Central Arkansas, I caught blips of it, but didn't watch the whole thing, to be totally honest. Marshall just got all over Eastern Kentucky in a hurry. So I only watched the first half of that game, but that would be my honorable mention. Marshall looking really crisp.
Oh yeah, they
talked about great. The Army and BYU blowouts. Marshall blew out a team as well. I had two games that I really wanted to talk about, so I'm glad you didn't talk about either because I was worried you were going to steal my thunder. But
are you here for the Lumberjacks? Stephen F. Austin?
Ooh, no, I'm not going to talk about the Stephen F. Austin game. I'm going to talk about SMU playing a road game, although very weird because no fans, so strange road game. But they did go on the road to Texas State. Texas State's been really bad for quite a while, and the Bobcats gave them a game. And so I was impressed in defeat with the Bobcats looking a little bit better. Their quarterback, Mr. Brady McBride, had himself a pretty nice game. Not the highest completion percentage, did have a pick, but I thought he moved the offense pretty well for a team not getting as much from their starting running back as I think they would have hoped.
Yeah, I mean, he stood up. He looked even with Shane Buechele from SMU, who is, one of the top quarterbacks in the group of five.
Going to talk about that. Yeah, SMU breaking in a new quarterback, Shane Buechele. He had himself a pretty nice game as well. Those two teams looked maybe not defensively quite yet in midseason form, but they put on a show. And then the other game that I really liked, like way under the radar, I really liked this game. South Alabama went down to Hattiesburg, beat Southern Miss again, kind of weird for a road game, but the Jags have been awful for quite a while. This was their first road win, since 2017. They also had a pretty nice day by their quarterback, Desmond Trotter, 299 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He also gave a little bit with his feet, 41 rushing yards. I thought the Jags looked pretty good. I thought Southern Miss was not as bad as Navy in regards to this, but they looked like a team that clearly didn't have much practice due to the COVID thing. So it's interesting how some of these teams come out sharper than others. I don't know if there's a common theme to that or not.
Josh, Southern Miss is so bad that their head coach quit after the game. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I mean, Jay Hobson resigned after the game, not because of the game, obviously, but it's still maybe losing to South Alabama really was the kick in the pants that they needed to wake up a little bit for the Mustard Buzzards.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bizarre. I mean, Southern Miss is a bowl team from last year.
I mean, for me, I think that's the first time a coach has ever been, gotten rid of in week 1, to my knowledge.
Oh boy.
I mean, Bobby Johnson, like in fall camp one year at Vanderbilt, quit in the 2000 and I think it was the 2010 season.
As we talk, I'm going to look it up, but for some reason, a FCS school has popped into my mind. I want to say they lost like week 1 really badly. Maybe they got blown out. Maybe they lost to a D2 team or something. But there's an FCS school that I am convinced fired their coach like minutes after the first games.
I feel like I heard a story about that. Like it was in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I heard a story about that, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. So now we'll get to some of these week 2 games here in just a minute. We have 4 ACC conference matchups. Also, with Notre Dame being officially part of the ACC for the year, that's going to be a little bit weird, but I'm not like entirely against it, Josh. But let's just talk about, we've talked and heard so many people talk ad nauseum about the ethics of playing during COVID, and now just today, we're recording this on Thursday night. Ryan Day sent an open letter to the Big Ten. Honestly, Josh, did you read the letter? Did you see that?
No.
Well, he's just being super whiny. It is really what it boils down to. He's just whining, being like, the other people are playing. Why can't we play? The other kids are playing. Why can't we go play with them?
Yeah, I mean, so the three of us have a weird balancing act, which is we're supposed to be a football podcast. So we're going to talk about football. We're going to have...
And we love football. I mean, if you've listened to the show for 1 minute, you know that, Corey, Josh, and myself are 3 of the biggest college football diehards that you are ever going to run across. We love this game. It's our favorite sport for all of us by a landslide.
So, yeah, I mean, we're going to have moments where the show feels really normal, and there's moments where I'm going to be excited, and it feels weird watching football this year. And I don't want to say going through the motions, because that implies we're going to deliberately put out crappy show. We're going to be like Ocho Cinco there at the end of his NFL career. I don't want to say that we're going through the motions, but in a way we are, because this pandemic is just, we don't know anything really about it. We don't know the long-term health risks associated with this disease. There was a study about like the myocardial damage to the heart of Big Ten athletes that had tested positive in the last few months. So there's potential for long-lasting damage. What happens when, God forbid, a player dies of COVID? What happens if a coach gets sick and dies? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. I applaud the Big Ten for making an extremely difficult decision. Seems like the Pac-12 has also been moving in that system, or at least they were initially with the Big Ten. But I think what the ACC, Big 12 are doing is the easy decision. That's the easy one. But I'm not sure it's the safe one. I'm not sure it's going to work out to be the correct one. Time will tell. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for this college football season to go without a hitch and no lasting damage and nothing awful happening. Would love to be proved wrong, and then we can make fun of the Big Ten for the rest of our lives and be like, hey, remember that year the Big Ten
and the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and the MAC.
Yeah, remember that year that like half the teams decided not to play, and it turned out that like COVID really wasn't a factor for these athletes, and we'll get a good chuckle about it in 5 years. But to err on the side of caution just makes sense. There's too many unknowns about this disease.
It really does.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Coach.
What's up, Coach?
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Yeah, we got done with practice a little bit late. We had a coaches meeting, and I didn't get home until like 10 minutes ago, and I was about to eat my left arm off, so I had to get some dinner. And, so it's I'm glad I'm here. Sorry I'm late, but
we're just glad to have you, Coach. We're just glad to have you.
All right, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the conferences playing and not playing, and sort of the ethics behind it. Now, one of the things that came out recently was that the amount of students who or people who get COVID having heart related issues. And actually, I wanted to, because there have been some people who have been like, pushing back against the study, saying it's not, good or real or whatever. I just want to read something that was just published, that was sent to me by my father, Dr. Fred Perkins. And it is, I just want to read a short excerpt from this for you guys, because what it says it's pretty concerning. Only the cardiomyocytes, which are muscle cells, showed indication of viral infection that spread to other muscle cells, the researchers said. However, what they found in the infected cells was remarkable. So these are heart cells that were infected with COVID. The sarcomeres, which are the long muscle fibers that keep the heart beating, had been sliced into small bits. According to the researchers, the fibers looked as if they had been surgically sliced. The researchers also found black holes where DNA was supposed to be in the nucleus of infected cells. The researchers said they found similar but not identical changes when they observed autopsy specimens from patients with COVID-19, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. That's not good. I don't want the muscles that keep my heart beating sliced into, surgically sliced into small bits. Now, I should remind you that this is research, but it has not been entirely peer reviewed yet. But given the source, I'm going to stay on the side of caution. and say that, especially with, even young, healthy adults being susceptible to having these long-term impacts, which we don't know what they are because COVID's been around for less than a year. So we don't know what the long-term impacts are. What we do know is that it's not good if you get it. Not, obviously, while the mortality rate may not be massive, it's still quite, even if the mortality rate is 0.5%, well, if our current president, who is now preaching herd immunity, which would mean that it would pass through all of the population, 0.5% of the 330 million people that live in America, well, guys, that's still what 0.5% of 330 million is about, I don't know. I can't even do my math today. 3.5. I don't know.
Hang on, Matt. I'll get on my
4 million people.
Machine.
It's going to be it's going to be 1.5 million to 2 million people. I think it's 1.65 million. 1.65 million. Sorry.
I can't do the math stuff. Just in a more lighthearted moment, just for some distraction for the show,
and to save me from floundering with my mental math.
Yes. Was doing one of those Kahoot review games with the students the other day, and I had it's like 10 students get it right, and then the other 12 got it wrong, and I was like, oh, looks like 10 is. I was like, looks like the majority of us got it, and then I was like, oh wait, those add up to 9. And I was like, wait, no, those add up to 12. I was like, no, we didn't all get it. And then I just turned to the kids and I'm like, this is why I'm not your math teacher.
That's probably good that you teach history. So you're not. I mean, you want to know the scary part is next semester I'm picking up since we're on the standard block scheduling. I'll have 3 brand new classes next semester in January. I'm picking up as a co-teacher. I'm picking up Math 2, Integrated Math 2, and Integrated Math 3. Now I don't know what's more scary, Math 2 or Math 3, but these kids are going to be like, Coach, what are you doing in here?
Coach, I know you can at least you can at least count play side and backside backers so that you've got at least something going for you there in the math department.
I mean, I can count to 3. That's good, right?
There we go. As Coach was coming on, Matt, I had a chance to Google what was on the tip of my tongue. I was half right. It was an FCS team blew out a FBS team that led to a coach getting fired after one game. It's back in 2005. I don't know how I don't remember this. It's Dan McCarney.
Oh, at Colorado.
No, North Texas.
Oh, really?
The old Iowa State coach, Dan McCarney, was fired after losing to Portland State opening day.
I remember that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you're right.
And they
I remember that.
Let's just say they lost the game a lot to a little. It was 66-7, I believe. So yeah, that's the game that was on the tip of my tongue.
Dang.
Yeah, Coach, are you going to apply for the Southern Miss opening?
Yes, mustard buzzards, here I come.
It's already
hey man, listen. If you need a video guide to take down to Hattiesburg with you, let me know.
All right, get packed up, man. I'll need one for sure.
Sounds good.
Josh, I need a. Never mind. I was going to say I need a math guy, but you're not it. But I need a historian.
Oh, Josh can be the SID, and we'll go from there.
There you go.
Yeah. So
that's it.
Well, so we're opening here week 1 we have 4 ACC conference
Isn't it technically
games.
week 2?
Well, week
I don't
2.
think they did. I don't think they did.
There was
week
week 0,
this
week
year.
1, whatever.
No, they got rid of week 0.
As far as I'm concerned, this is technically week 2, but we will do our conference previews next week.
This is week 2.
Yeah, we'll do our conference previews for the SEC, the Big 12, and some of the other conferences next week. But we need to do the ACC because there are 4 ACC conference games this week. So obviously Clemson returns as the national runner-ups from last year, preseason #1 team. Coach, is there anyone in the ACC who can even, stay within 2 touchdowns of Clemson?
No, not a chance.
Not even. Who's going to push him most? Notre Dame?
Yes. I guess you could call Notre Dame an ACC team, but
for the season they're an ACC team. They're playing an ACC schedule this year.
That's true. They borrowed him. So Notre Dame's the only one that can hang. Florida State, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, good for them for getting a good coach finally in Jay Norvell. They've needed one for a minute now, but
Norvell's almost had 2 mutinies on his hands. He's off to a rough start.
That's true. I mean, then who's our Josh? Do you have like a sleeper or a dark horse? And I know so many people are fawning over North Carolina, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't see it.
I think North Carolina was frisky last year. They like the energy that Mac Brown bought, so I could see why people.
Yeah, gotta love that octogenarian energy.
Yeah, I can see why people are enjoying that. I think Virginia had way too much roster turnover. They lost their dynamic quarterback. So, unfortunately, I don't see the Who's. I know there's no ACC title game this year, but I don't see them contending for that. Virginia Tech was up and down a year ago, but I think people like the pieces, although I'm not sold on the coaching staff. So, I'm honestly struggling to find a team to be a true dark horse. So I'm going to go with one a little bit off the board. And that's just, have you ever noticed that Pitt throws like crazy monkey wrenches into schedules sometimes?
We all have like a weird affinity for Pitt too. So no, I'm not surprised at all. Also, Pitt, those when they go with the yellow and like the more of like the royal blue look, not like the dark, not the navy blue, but the royal blue look. Some of the best
the mustard and royal.
Yeah.
The royal mustard.
Maybe those might be the best unis in the ACC.
Yeah. So I mean, just to give you an idea about how Pittsburgh likes to throw a monkey wrench into stuff.
Well, when they beat Clemson the year they won the national title.
Yeah, that was a pretty big monkey wrench. Last year they gave Penn State all they could handle, losing in Happy Valley 17-10. They were the ones who upset the North Carolina apple cart and paved the way for the Who's by knocking off the Heels in overtime last year. They went 7-5 regular season, then won their bowl game, 500 in conference. They're frisky, and I think with Narduzzi, they're better coached than people realize. I think sometimes people feel like he hasn't lived up to expectations because Pitt hasn't fully broken through yet. But I think what he inherited was way worse than people realize. And just, he plays in that pro stadium. They're always overshadowed in their own state by Penn State, and they're always overshadowed in their conference by Clemson, among others. And it's just, I don't know. Maybe they'll be frisky. We'll see.
I mean, I think Narduzzi's done a good job. I don't think he's had much. I mean, he's never been a powerful recruiter, but I mean, just Pitt is not one of those programs where you look at it and just be like, Pitt, like they're national powerhouses. So I think Narduzzi's done fine. I don't think he's been spectacular, but honestly, who's spectacular?
Clemson.
I mean, yeah, it's the most top-heavy league, though.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I don't know. Does anyone want to buy some Louisville stock?
Yeah, I mean, they're well coached. They're super well coached,
especially with
the Satterfield.
Yeah, Satterfield, good coach, and on top of that, with some of Clemson's guys, especially some of their receivers out for the year. I think Justin Ross is out for the year. Tutu Atwell's probably the best receiver in the conference. And they've got, they're going to have a good offense. Louisville always seems to have some really solid skill players. They're going to have to replace Mekhi Becton, their, mountain of a left tackle. But
who's in New York now? right?
Yeah, who's playing for the Jets. But I could see Louisville making some noise, but I will never ever fully trust Louisville. Any of the other North Carolina schools interest anyone? Wake Forest, Sage Surratt, their best player, opted out of the season because of COVID. North Carolina State, I mean, who even knows what's going on there? Duke
they
has
have a team still.
Duke has Chris Rumpf and pretty much nothing else.
I think
What's
Duke's
sad
such
is
a
that
well-coached.
Duke is they're the best team in North Carolina right now.
Are they better than UNC?
I don't know. They might be. They're better. They're extremely well coached and they're pesky.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they only went 5-7 last year, a little bit of a down year for Cutcliffe, but I expect them to bounce back. I expect them to be a splinter in some of these teams and maybe steal a win that they shouldn't get. I think another team that could also be a pest, and unfortunately for their schedule doesn't do them any favors, but with Syracuse's high-flying offense and the poor tackling we've seen in some of these games, if Syracuse had gotten Clemson, for instance, week 1, that would have been
fun.
That would have been an interesting one.
I mean, what was it, 2 years ago up in the Carrier Dome?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that that Syracuse was putting it to Clemson. So, I mean, Miami is going to be interesting just because they have De'Aaron King now playing quarterback. They actually might have some decent quarterback play.
I don't know. Based on this UAB game, I'm ready to write them off.
I don't have it on in the background right now because I've actually been watching the U.S. Open. I just watched Jen Brady lose to Naomi Osaka in the women's semis. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think that, I mean, this obviously the most top-heavy conference. Clemson is Clemson versus the field isn't even a bet you could take because like Clemson versus the field would still be favorite Clemson. You'd get like 1 to 10 odds. Like I can't even imagine the vig you would have to pay on that. So
well, Miami was poorly coached a year ago. Miami was not a good team last year. They added De'Aaron King.
And they still got Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
I was listening to the Dan Le Batard show, and their producer Mike Ryan, who is a massive Hurricanes fan, was saying, Miami off of a bye is a dangerous team to themselves because the more time you give Manny Diaz to coach, the worse they are.
Here we go. Here's some stats for you guys. Halftime stats. First downs, UAB 5, Miami 13. Total yards, UAB 127, Miami 247.
Sounds like they're blowing them out.
Rushing yards, 13 for UAB, 181 for Miami.
Getting it done on the ground.
UAB 7 penalties, 39 yards. Miami 1 for 15.
That doesn't sound like Miami.
Turnovers, UAB 0, Miami 1. Time of possession, UAB 16-47, Miami 13-13. Sounds like it should be a blowout, gentlemen. It's 14-7 at half.
Yeah, they're not getting it done. They're not getting it done. Well,
wow.
We have 4 ACC matchups this weekend. All the closest spread on any of them is Georgia Tech at Florida State, where Florida State is favored by 12.5. Coach, I could see actually Georgia Tech pulling that one out, especially with a new coach at Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, you have no spring practice. You have a new way of doing things, new system, new everything at Florida State. I could see that game getting sideways for the Seminoles.
The only thing that would make me push back against that is that I think Marvin Wilson by himself could just engulf the entire Georgia Tech line, and and he could get like 4 safeties by himself, and they could win the game like 8-6.
Yeah. Now, I've always contended that Georgia Tech was whenever Paul Johnson left, it was going to be a 2-year rebuild, and this would be year 2. They're going to be very competitive, but I just don't think they're going to be there yet because they're just not quite built the way that Jeff Collins wants them to be built. So it's they're still in a project, but they're going to be pesky. They've got a little bit more continuity. They know what's going on in year 2 of the Jeff Collins era. And I think they promised them if they win, they all get team issued capris. So,
did you guys hear what the Florida State athletic director said regarding fans in the stadium? No, it was.
Is that what he said?
No, it was. I don't know. I thought this was a pretty offensive thing to say. He gave us.
Did he spell Florida State?
No, he.
O-R-I-D-A.
No,
S-T-O-T-E.
This is what the athletic director said. He said, Florida State football will allow fans at the stadium. Our capacity will be between 20 and 25%. We're trying to get those Willie Taggart numbers.
Ooh, ouch.
No, he didn't say that. I made it up. I don't want to besmirch the FSU athletic director's day.
Do you really though? Do you really care if you besmirch the FSU athletic director?
I don't even know who the AD is, but I just...
My point exactly. So the other three
TK
ACC...
Weatherall?
I don't know. You got me. It could be DK Metcalf for all I know.
Well, TK Weatherall, he was one of my dad's teammates.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah. That's
Well,
how I know that name.
Well then.
There we go.
You want to pick that name up that you just dropped?
Deep this time.
3 other ACC games this weekend: Syracuse at North Carolina, Duke at Notre Dame, Clemson at Wake Forest. North Carolina, Josh, somehow is favored by 23, which, I mean, people are excited about North Carolina, and people are really getting excited about Sam Howell, for his sophomore year, but I'm predicting a sophomore slump for him.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, you come in, and part of what makes quarterbacks develop in year 2 is having, again, that spring practice period, having that off season, reviewing your film from your freshman year, and really developing. He didn't have that. And he doesn't have that rapport with these receivers. And so he is going to struggle. He might come out of it, but he's going to struggle early on. Everybody will, really. But, I mean, people that, need that jump from year 1 to year 2 are going to really struggle.
Yeah, definitely. Josh, I mean, do you think it's going to be a UNC blowout like Las Vegas is predicting?
That number caught my eye because that seems pretty bold for such a strange off season and everything. I will say this though. I mean, Coach mentioned that there's some new faces on the team, but the leading receiver is back. Dimey Brown, 1,000 receiving yards a year ago. So, you get your top target back. That's nice. I think there's a lot to like about UNC on paper, but the problem is you're buying a lot of stock in a magical turnaround type season. And it's like, they were on the mat. They were so bad that like anything Mac Brown was going to do would improve them. And you see the total difference between an awful, awful coach and someone who is
the Hat Man, Larry Fedora.
Yeah, and you see someone who is a good coach. I think what people, were loving was, wow, they made a bowl in season 1. They won their bowl at 7-6, 4-4. But we've talked about the ACC. It's really top heavy, so there are wins to be had there. So just running through North Carolina's season a year ago, they beat the utterly disappointing South Carolina Gamecocks week 1. They beat the absolutely underwhelming, atrociously coached Miami Hurricanes week 2. Then they promptly lost 3 straight. Wake, App State, and Clemson. And I know that all 3 were close. I know the Clemson game was a 1-point heartbreaker. But still, I mean, those are losses. Those, doesn't matter if it's by 1 or 100. Something went wrong in 3 straight weeks. Then they beat a Georgia Tech team that Coach already mentioned is in a rebuild. They lost at Virginia Tech in 6 overtimes, so that one's kind of exciting. Beat Duke, then lost to Virginia, lost to Pitt, beat Mercer, beat North Carolina State, who was also a pretty big disappointment a year ago. So you add it all up, and sure, you flip a coin, maybe they pick off some of those close games, but at the same time, you can flip a coin the other way and say, well, they beat South Carolina and Miami by a combined 8 or 7 points. So I mean, they were a tightrope act all last year. That's a hard way to, repeat. There's a lot of puck luck, to steal a hockey term. With that, they were a 500 team for a reason. They're still developing, and I mean, I get the excitement, and I don't want to be, like I did a few years ago, and I was like, Mitch Trubisky, who's this guy? Who's going to draft him? No one cares about him. Like, and I crapped all over North Carolina. They probably still hate me, but I'm just trying to be realistic about them.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've only got a couple more minutes here, so I want to jump right in. We have 8 non-ACC conference games this weekend between FBS schools, and so we are starting our spread formations, guys, with 8 games this weekend. We are going to start with the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe heading up to West Point, New York, to take on the 1-0 Army Cadets, the Black Knights of West Point. 21-point favorites, Josh. 21-point favorites at home against ULM. Who do you like?
Well, the way Army took it to Middle Tennessee a week ago was pretty eye-opening. Does that mean Louisiana Monroe will be serious and work their butts off all week at practice? Well, I don't know with these practice schedules. It's so hard. Who knows? I'm going to go with the more sure thing. I'm going to take Army to cover 3 touchdowns.
Coach?
Army was really impressive in how they just completely dismantled Middle Tennessee or MTSU, man. It was watching that game. I just kind of felt like
I was embarrassed for the entire city of Murfreesboro.
I was too, and I was thinking this has got to be the end for Rick Stockstill. And I was like, man,
at least the beginning of the end, yeah.
They just look pitiful. I mean, that whole sequence at the end of the half where you have 40 seconds, you have the ball inside the 10, and you get nothing, and you only run 2 plays.
Yeah, that was pathetic. That was absolutely pathetic.
I've never pulled my hair out so much in my entire life. I mean,
I heard Brian Ferentz was watching that entire sequence and taking notes to add that wrinkle to his offense.
That does not surprise me in the least. That does not surprise me in the least. All right, sounds like we're all taking the Black Knights. Let's head over down to the Lone Star State. Josh, we already mentioned Texas State earlier, looking good in their first game. This week they are favored at home against UTSA. Texas State 9-point favorites at home against the Roadrunners. Who do you like?
Yeah, I already talked about him. I was really impressed with a big step up in competition to SMU. I thought Brady McBride handled himself well against SMU, back down in a more equitable opponent with the Roadrunners. I kind of like that Texas State team. They looked much better, way improved last week over a year ago. So I'm going to give those Bobcats some love and say that they cover also.
All right, Coach.
I'm gonna go with Josh here. I like the Bobcats.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for the Roadrunners, but in Jeff Traylor's first game as head coach, especially new coach, didn't get anything in terms of spring ball, anything like that. With limited fall camp for all these teams, you got to go with the continuity at Texas State. Give me Texas State in this one as well to cover. Next, we're going to head over to Boone, North Carolina, where App State.
Hey, by the way, I was watching Texas State last week, and they were so. I guess they had to get their first game out of the way, but they were running this play, and it was a triple option play where they you give it, run it out there, throw the bubble. Well, he throws the bubble, and the guy is standing out of bounds. The receiver had ran out of bounds and caught the pass. The quarterback threw it to him. He was staring at him, knew he was out of bounds, and he threw it to him out of bounds for a 2-yard loss. I was like, yep,
well, shouldn't that be an incomplete pass if he catches it out of bounds? Or I guess that would be a fumble if it's behind the line of scrimmage, so technically.
Yeah, it would have been. It was technically a fumble out of bounds, but it was. I was like, what is he? Does he not? I was like, come on, really?
All right, guys, we got to get through these last 6 rapid fire. Charlotte against in-state App State. App State 17-point favorites at home in Boone. Josh, who you like?
Okay, well, first of all, Charlotte did a very sneaky thing in the offseason, which is change their logo. So when I first saw it, I was like, Charlotte, is that a new FCS team that I don't know about? And then I realized, oh, no, it's our old friend, the Charlotte 49ers, just with a new look. Not entirely sure. It's like a UTEP hammer thing that miners use.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's a
pickaxe. It's a pickaxe, but
yeah, I was caught off guard by it. You know what I'm not going to be caught off guard by is the vastly superior App State program at home. Give me the Mountaineers.
Coach.
That was a very roundabout way of saying that the Mountaineers are going to roll. I concur.
Yeah, App State going away. Next, we've got the biggest spread of the week. The University of Texas at El Paso, better known as UTEP. They're heading to Austin. The Longhorns, Josh, your favorite team, favored by 43.
Ooh.
Jesus.
Wow.
Let's make it quick because we have 2 minutes left.
Well, I mean, here's the bottom line. UTEP's awful. They've been awful for a really long time. But 40 is just an astronomical number. I pretty much never take 40 because all it does is require UTEP to have one stupid pick six and one silly drive where they get a field goal to put up 10 points, and then you're expecting Texas to run it up on somebody. So I'll take the Miners.
Coach.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to have time to spread a 44-point victory. So,
I actually think that this is the year that Texas is going to try to get Sam Ehlinger the Heisman in a diluted field. So I see Texas winning by 48 in this one. So I'm actually going to take the Longhorns. Ooh. Next, we have a battle in the Bluegrass State, Western Kentucky at Louisville. Louisville favored by 11.5 points at home. Josh.
Western Kentucky at Louisville. Boy, let's see. We have one team that we think is a dark horse in the ACC to do some damage, and the other is the Hilltoppers. Give me Louisville.
Coach.
Oh, give me Louisville all day. They're extremely well coached. They're like App State on steroids.
Yeah, give me Louisville by 3 touchdowns or more. Next, Josh, we will head to your home state, the Cyclones of Iowa State are hosting our favorite nickname team, the Raging Cajuns of the University of Louisiana, favored by only 11.5 at home.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a silly spread on this, like 3 touchdowns or something, and then I could talk about how Iowa State has just been a mess. They were going to have fans. Now they're not having fans. They are a COVID hotspot. No idea what's going on with that campus. But with it being under 2 touchdowns, I'm going to take Iowa State because I think they are a pretty complete team, at least on paper, and a coaching staff that we all really like.
Brock Purdy, Heisman dark horse. Huh? Coach, are you with Josh there?
I'm with Josh. Yeah, I just think they're too well coached. Their defense is good. Scheme-wise is very sound, and I think Brock Purdy is going to have a big year.
All right. Quickly, Arkansas State at Kansas State. Arkansas State lost to Memphis last week. Kansas State 10.5-point favorites at home against the Red Wolves. Josh.
Yeah, Arkansas State with a game under them. They looked pretty good in a losing effort. Kansas State was kind of just all over the map a year ago. I think it'll be another tight loss for Arkansas State, but close enough that they actually cover.
I think it's going to be really ugly, but I think Kansas State's going to cover barely. But it'll be one of those where you're starting to wonder until about the midway through the third quarter. But I think Kansas State will pull it out.
I like that Arkansas State has had a game under their belt, and so I will take them to lose by only 3 points. So they will cover. Finally, Coastal Carolina at Kansas. Kansas favored by 6.5.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I feel weird saying that.
So speaking about logo changes, ESPN, I don't know if this is an official one or just ESPN's website or something, but Kansas, the bird used to have like color to it, and now it's just like grayed out. The bird looks dead. I don't know what's happening.
They killed the bird.
Did the bird get COVID?
I'm going to say that this is an inauspicious sign, and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, in honor of their old coach, have some dog in them.
Great soundbite, but it's not going to be enough, though.
Yeah, Shanty's in an upset.
All right, Coach, you like Kansas. I like Puka Williams to run for about 275 yards and 4 scores in this one. So,
Puka.
With that, guys, I have to go. So we all have to go. So it is time for us to wrap up. Good to be back. And on behalf of our own intrepid blogger in the Windy City, it's been a while since I did this. Since I did the outro, man.
Yeah.
On behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, here in Nashville, Tennessee, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten Encoding, Josh Cook, up there in the Windy City, this is the Professor in Nashville saying so long and see you next time on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast.
Tulane at South Alabama. Going to be a fun one. Watch it.
September 25th, Hillwood versus McGavick. It's on.